No one expected her to show up, but when she did, the entire room went silent. Liam Davenport had it all: wealth, power, status, a millionaire by inheritance, a charmer by nature. The type of man who didn't walk into a room, he owned it. His life was the definition of luxury: penthouse views over Manhattan, a garage full of supercars, private chefs, and a reputation for throwing parties so extravagant, even celebrities begged to be invited. Before we dive deeper into this journey, take a moment to support this channel. If you enjoy stories that touch the heart and inspire the soul, hit the like button, subscribe, and comment below where you're watching from. We love hearing your stories too. This year, for his 33rd birthday, Liam had a theme: modern royalty. Velvet drapes, golden chandeliers, champagne fountains. The kind of event where the price of one bottle of wine could pay someone's rent for an entire year. His guest list? Impeccable. Actors, influencers, CEOs, foreign nobility. Every name was meticulously chosen, until someone noticed a peculiar addition. "Clara Montero?" asked Sienna, his sharp-tongued assistant, scanning the gold-embossed invitation list. "Who the hell is that?" Liam leaned back in his chair, swirling his whiskey glass, a smirk dancing on his lips. "She's my maid," he said. "Thought I'd add a little twist." Sienna blinked. "You're inviting the cleaning lady to this?" "It's a joke," Liam shrugged. "She won't show up, obviously, but imagine if she did." The staff chuckled. To them, it was typical Liam, bored with his own fortune, amused by disrupting the rules of class. It wasn't meant to be cruel, not exactly, but it wasn't kind either. Meanwhile, in a quiet apartment in Queens, Clara stared at the invitation in her hands. She'd found it tucked under the door when she got home from work, after spending 10 hours scrubbing marble floors and disinfecting toilets in the same penthouse Liam would now fill with diamonds and violins. A gold envelope, embossed letters, an official RSVP. She almost laughed. It had to be a mistake, or worse, a mockery. But 3 days later, as the guests stepped out of black cars and gowns and tuxedos, Clara stepped out too, and she looked nothing like the maid they remembered. Her gown was midnight blue, sculpted to perfection. Her heels clicked with confidence. Her hair, elegantly pulled back, revealed a grace in her posture no one had ever noticed before. She didn't just look beautiful, she looked powerful. "Who is that?" Amato whispered, eyes wide. Liam, across the room, froze mid-sentence. He turned slowly, glass still in hand, and stared. There she was, Clara Montero, the woman who vacuumed his carpets and folded his towels. But now, standing at the top of the stairs with every eye on her, she looked like she owned the place. The music dipped. The whispers grew louder. She walked straight toward him, past billionaires and socialites, holding something small in her hand. He tried to speak, but nothing came out. She smiled, calm, poised. "Thank you for the invitation, Mr. Davenport," she said softly. "I came to return something that belongs to you." She opened her hand, and suddenly, his face turned pale. Liam didn't move. His eyes were locked on the small, faded photograph in Clara's hand. It was old, clearly well kept, edges worn by time. The kind of photo people keep hidden in drawers, not because they want to forget, but because they can't bear to remember. He took it slowly, like it might burn his fingers. The room had gone still. Conversations halted. The clinking of glasses faded. Only the soft notes of the string quartet played on, unaware of the tension folding over itself like a wave ready to break. Liam stared at the photo, confused at first. It was of a small boy no older than 5, sitting on a woman's lap in a sunlit park, her arms wrapped protectively around him. She was smiling. He frowned, looked up at Clara, then back at the picture. That woman? It was his mother. And the boy? It was him. "What is this?" he asked, voice low, almost hoarse. Clara's expression didn't change. "I used to work for your family," she said calmly. "Years ago, long before you became the millionaire everyone talks about. I was just a young girl then, barely 17. Liam shook his head, trying to place her, but the memory was gone, buried beneath years of luxury and excess. "I helped your mother take care of you," she continued. "You were just a little boy, curious, kind. You used to follow me around the house, asking if I believed in magic." And suddenly he remembered, vivid flashes, her humming in the kitchen, the way she used to sneak him little sugar cookies before dinner, the stories she told about queens and heroes, and how true royalty came from the heart. "You disappeared one day," he whispered. Clara nodded. "Your father fired me. Without warning. He said I was getting too close." Her voice didn't tremble. "It was too late for pain now. I left that photograph behind by accident. It was in my room. I never thought I'd see it again." Liam's world began to tilt, just slightly. He'd grown up believing in a version of his childhood curated by his father, sterile, controlled, exclusive. Now, standing before him in a room filled with diamonds and ambition, was the one person who had shown him love without asking for anything in return. A woman he hadn't recognized because she had been erased from his memory. "Why now?" he asked, struggling to breathe steady. "Because," Clara replied, her eyes gleaming, "you invited me." And for a moment, he didn't know if it was fate or karma. The silence was broken by the sharp click of heels. Sienna appeared, her eyes narrowed, tone clipped. "Is there a problem here?" Clara turned to her, smiling politely. "No, I was just leaving." And with that, she placed the photo gently in Liam's hand and walked away. The crowd parted as she moved. Some stared in confusion, others in awe. But one thing was certain. She hadn't come for champagne or attention. She came for closure. Liam stood frozen, still holding the photo like it weighed more than gold. What he didn't know was that this was only the beginning, because Clara wasn't just a maid from his past, and she wasn't leaving quietly. Liam didn't return to the party. While champagne flowed and guests danced beneath chandeliers imported from Venice, he stood alone in the quiet of his private study, holding a childhood photo that now felt like a window into a life he'd forgotten. A life filled with warmth. With Clara, she hadn't just been the maid. She had been his safe place. Someone who sang to him when the lights flickered during storms, who held him when his parents fought behind closed doors, who whispered stories of courage into his ear as he drifted off to sleep. And now he realized his childhood hadn't been as cold as he thought. It had only become that way after she left. He stared out at the city skyline, drowning in glittering lights and empty noise. For years, he had filled his life with wealth, luxury, people who cared more about his last name than his heart. But Clara? She had known him before the suits, before the fortune, before he forgot what love without conditions looked like. A knock at the door. "Mr. Davenport," Sienna called through the polished oak. "The guests are waiting for your toast." He didn't answer. A few seconds passed. Then she added, "Are you all right? You look shaken." He turned toward the door, but didn't move. "Do you know what it's like," he said, more to himself than to her, "to realize the most real person in your life was someone you forgot existed?" Silence. "You're overthinking it," she said. "She's just a maid." His eyes hardened. "No," he said quietly. "She was family." The door closed. Later that night, after the party had died down and the mansion returned to stillness, Liam pulled an old box from the back of a closet he hadn't opened in years. Inside were scattered pieces of his childhood. A broken toy, a birthday card written in curly handwriting, a crumpled drawing of a castle with a stick figure queen and a boy with a golden crown. In the corner of the drawing, written in faded pencil, "Every king needs a queen with a kind heart. Clara." He ran his fingers over the words. She hadn't come back for attention. She had come because he needed to remember who he used to be. The next morning, Liam canceled all his meetings. He went to Queen's. He had no address, just her name and a photo. But he was determined. He knocked on doors, spoke to neighbors, asked around bakeries and corner stores, offering descriptions that made people pause and point. "Clara Montero? Yeah. She lives 2 blocks down, 3rd floor, window with the hanging plants." His heart pounded as he climbed the stairs. He had faced investors, billionaires, royal families, but nothing terrified him more than knocking on that old wooden door. When it finally opened, Clara stood there in a simple robe, hair loosely tied back, no trace of last night's elegance. Just the woman she had always been. She blinked, surprised. "Mr. Davenport?" "Liam," he said softly. "Just Liam." He looked down, suddenly unsure what to say. "I don't know why I didn't remember you, but I do now, and I think I owe you more than an apology." She raised an eyebrow. "What exactly do you think you owe me?" He took a breath. "Everything." She didn't respond. Not yet. She simply stepped aside, and let him in. Clara's apartment was small, clean, humble, the kind of place built on quiet strength, not status. There were no signs of wealth, no designer furniture, just sunlight pouring in through lace curtains, a soft scent of lavender, and shelves filled with worn books and framed memories. One in particular caught Liam's eye, a photo of Clara with an older woman, arms wrapped tightly around each other, laughing like they had everything they needed. Clara followed his gaze. "That was my mother," she said. "She passed 3 years ago. Cancer." "I'm sorry," Liam replied, his voice gentle. She nodded, but didn't linger in grief. "She always told me, rich is what you carry inside, not what you keep in your wallet." Clara glanced at him. "You probably think that's silly." He shook his head. "Not anymore." They sat across from each other, the silence between them filled with words neither one knew how to say, until Clara finally asked, "So why did you come?" Liam leaned forward. "Because I needed to understand. That night, when you handed me that photo, it broke something open in me. You weren't just part of my past, Clara. You were the only part that ever felt real." She studied him, as if trying to see beyond the suit, the tailored life, the name. "You were a sweet boy," she said. "Curious, sensitive. But then your father changed everything." Liam looked away. He was always obsessed with image, with legacy, with control. Clara's tone softened. "He sent me away because I was a threat to that image. Not because I did anything wrong, but because I reminded your mother. And you. That love doesn't follow rules or bloodlines." He clenched his jaw. "I remember now. The day you left, my mother cried for hours, and I stopped asking questions." Clara nodded slowly. "That's what rich people learn early. How to forget the things that make them feel too much." Liam let the words sink in. "Because they were true. I never meant to hurt you," he said. "The invitation started as a joke, and I hate that. But when you walked in like that..." He paused. "You looked like someone I should have been chasing my whole life." Clara didn't smile, but her eyes softened. "I didn't come to humiliate you," she said. "I came because I wanted you to see me, for who I am now, for who I always was." He leaned in, voice quieter now. "Then let me see." The wall she had built for years began to crack. But before either of them could speak again, there was a soft knock at her door. Clara frowned, rising slowly. When she opened it, a young girl, no older than 12, stood there, holding a lunchbox and a backpack. Her eyes flicked to Liam, curious. Is everything okay?" Liam stood slowly, stunned. "Mom." Clara turned toward him. "Yes, this is Sophia." The girl gave a polite nod. Liam's world tilted again. "But I didn't know you had a daughter." Clara looked at him, her expression unreadable. He didn't ask. He opened his mouth, closed it. Everything suddenly felt heavier. The child, the past, the truth he never saw coming. He looked at Sophia again. Same eyes, same calm presence. And then something struck him, something impossible to ignore. She looked familiar, too familiar. The resemblance was subtle, but unmistakable. Sophia's dark eyes, the curve of her chin, even the way she stood with quiet confidence. It was like looking into a reflection from the past, not of himself exactly, but of someone he once loved more than anything, his mother. Liam couldn't speak. His mind was racing through timelines, memories, questions. Clara noticed his silence and gently placed a hand on Sophia's shoulder. "You can go do your homework, honey," she said softly. "I'll be there in a minute." Sophia nodded and disappeared into her bedroom, leaving the door slightly ajar. Liam turned to Clara, his voice tight. "Is she?" "No," Clara said quickly, as if sensing the question before he could finish it. "She's not your daughter." His heart slowed, but the confusion didn't fade. "Then who's her father?" Clara looked away. For the first time, emotion cracked through her composure. She sat down slowly, exhaling like she was carrying the weight of years. "Her father was someone I trusted, someone I thought would stay." Her voice was steady, but her eyes shimmered. "He didn't..." "I'm sorry," Liam said quietly. Clara nodded. "I raised her on my own. Cleaned houses during the day, studied at night. Took years, but I got my degree. Started my own cleaning business. Not huge, but it's mine." "You built a life," he said. She smiled faintly. "A real one." Liam leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Why didn't you tell me any of this? Because you weren't the same boy who once followed me through hallways asking about dragons and fairy tales, she said. You became the man who invited a maid to his $1 million birthday party as a joke. Her words stung, but he didn't flinch. He knew he'd earned them. I've made mistakes, he said, but that moment seeing you walk into that room, it changed something in me. Clara raised an eyebrow. You think people can really change? He didn't answer right away. Then, softly, I have to believe they can. Or all of this, he motioned around her home, means nothing. She looked at him carefully, searching for cracks in the persona, signs of sincerity. And for the first time in years, she saw something real behind his eyes. But before she could speak, Sophia's voice called from her room, small and innocent. Mom, can Liam help me with my project? It's about what it means to be rich. The question hung in the air like a challenge neither of them expected. Clara turned to Liam slowly. Well, she asked, a hint of amusement in her voice. What does it mean to be rich? He blinked. In all his years surrounded by fortune, luxury, and influence, he didn't have a good answer. Not yet. But maybe sitting in this modest apartment, with a woman he once forgot and a little girl asking the kind of question money couldn't buy, he was about to find it. I think, he said carefully, maybe it means having something no one can take away, something or someone worth remembering. And that's when Clara finally smiled, genuine, soft, full of the warmth he remembered from long ago. But just as the moments softened between them, her phone buzzed. She picked up and froze. Liam watched her expression darken. What is it? He asked. She handed him the screen. It was an email from Davenport Legal Holdings. Subject, eviction notice. His father's name was on it. And the reason? Non-compliance with property sale agreement. Clara whispered, they're trying to take my home. Liam stared at the screen, his heart pounding. His last name, Davenport, was stamped across the top like a cold signature of control. His father's law firm had issued the notice, not some distant corporation, his own family's company. He looked at Clara, whose calm had been replaced by a quiet storm. But she wasn't surprised. Not really. This isn't the first letter, she said flatly. But it's the first time they used your name. Liam felt sick. Why didn't you tell me? Clara met his gaze, steady and strong. Because I don't need saving, Liam. I built this life without your father's money, and I'll defend it without yours. He sat down hard, guilt crashing into his chest. But he's targeting you because of me, because you showed up. Clara gave a bitter laugh. He always hated what he couldn't control. Your mother, me, you. This is just his way of reminding us that the Davenport name still owns the rules. Liam stood up, pacing a small room. I thought I'd left all that behind when he died. Clara froze. He's dead? He nodded. 3 months ago. Heart attack. She blinked, shocked, but not sad. Then who sent this? Liam hesitated. My stepmother, Vanessa. She took over the firm after he passed. She always saw me as a threat to her grip on the fortune. She probably thinks you're some scandal waiting to happen. Clara folded her arms. I am a scandal, Liam. A maid with a memory. Her words cut deep. Sophia peeked out of her room again. Is everything okay? Clara's voice softened. It will be, baby. Go back to your homework. When the girl disappeared again, Liam walked to the window, fists clenched. They want to destroy the only good part of my past. They think they can silence it. Clara walked over beside him, then show them they're wrong. He looked at her, uncertain. What do you want me to do? Not buy me a new place. Not send a check. I want you to stand up, not as a millionaire, but as a man. Tell the truth. Tell the world what your family tried to erase. Liam nodded slowly. Okay. That night, he made a call to his publicist. He canceled his next gala, skipped the exclusive yacht event, and instead, he scheduled an interview, one that would air to millions. The following day, the headlines exploded. Liam Davenport breaks silence on family secrets. Millionaire speaks out. She raised me better than they did. The maid who made me human. The world listened, but not everyone was pleased. Vanessa called within hours. Her voice was icy. What are you doing, Liam? Something real, he said calmly. You're risking your reputation. No, he replied. I'm finally earning one. But just as he hung up the phone, Clara's voice rang from the kitchen. "Liam, you need to see this." He hurried over. On her cracked old laptop screen, a live stream was playing. In front of Clara's building, a black SUV had pulled up. Men in suits were stepping out. One was holding a clipboard. The headline at the bottom of the screen said it all. Eviction attempt underway despite public outcry. Liam grabbed his coat. "I'm not taking her home," he said, eyes burning. Clara stood beside him, calm and ready. "No," she replied. "We won't let them." By the time Liam and Clara reached the apartment building, a crowd had already formed. Neighbors stood on the steps, arms crossed in silent protest. A few held handmade signs. "Justice for Clara." "Homes, not power plays." And one that read, "You can't evict a queen." Camera crews hovered at the edges, drawn by the story of a millionaire standing against his own legacy. The SUV was still parked, but the suited men now stood awkwardly, clearly not expecting resistance, especially not with this much attention. Clara's building manager was there too, arguing with one of the legal reps. "You don't have authority. Her lease is valid until next year." But the man holding the clipboard shook his head. "This is above your level. The property was quietly sold to Davenport Holdings last month. They have full discretion." Clara stepped forward. "I didn't sign anything. I didn't agree to sell." "You didn't need to," the man said flatly. "Your unit was part of a building-wide acquisition." Before Clara could respond, Liam cut in. "No, it wasn't." The crowd turned as he moved past them, his voice ringing clear. "I reviewed the papers this morning. There's no legal basis for the eviction. The acquisition was pushed through using forged consent, and I have evidence." The lawyer stiffened. "You're not authorized to." "I own 48% of Davenport Holdings," Liam said, stepping closer. "And as of 10 minutes ago, I filed a motion to freeze all property-related actions pending full audit." Silence, then murmurs, then applause. The lawyer's face turned pale. "I suggest you leave before more cameras arrive," Liam said, his voice calm but unshakable. "And tell Vanessa I'm done being quiet." The man hesitated, then motioned to his team. They retreated into the SUV and drove off. Clara stared at him, stunned. "You really did it?" He nodded, breathing hard. "And I'm not finished." That evening, Liam went live on his own social media. No PR filters, no polished interviews, just him, sitting in Clara's living room, telling the world what mattered. "I've spent my life surrounded by wealth," he said into the camera. "I've had mansions, jets, parties with royalty. But the richest moment of my life was remembering the woman who used to sit beside my bed and remind me that I was loved, not for what I had, but for who I was." He paused. "Clara Montero didn't just clean my house. She cleaned the dust off my soul." The video went viral overnight. Offers poured in, talk shows, book deals, partnerships. Clara was offered speaking engagements, brand collaborations. A scholarship fund was even started in her name by women who saw in her the strength they never knew they had. But Clara? She didn't take the spotlight. She stayed in her home, kept running her business, raised her daughter, quiet, steady, radiant. 1 week later, Liam stood outside her door again. This time, he wasn't wearing a suit. He held something small in his hand. A ring. Simple silver, nothing flashy. It had been his mother's. The only thing he truly remembered her holding with pride. Clara opened the door and tilted her head. "You're back." "I never really left," he said. He held out the ring. "This isn't a proposal," he said. "Not yet. This is a promise." She looked at him, then down at the ring. "A promise for what?" "That I'll spend the rest of my life earning your trust. That I'll never forget who you are again. That I'll never let the world silence you, or your daughter." A long silence. Then Clara smiled. "You always were a stubborn boy. And you," Liam said, grinning, "always were queen." She stepped forward and took his hand. Not because he was rich, but because he had finally become worthy. True wealth isn't in money, luxury, or power. It's in memory and courage, in people who loved us before we even understood what love meant. And when you finally see them, not as background characters in your eyes, but as the reason you rose, that's when you become truly rich. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to give this video a like, subscribe to our channel, Share this video and tell us in the comments. What part of Clara's journey moved you the most? There's another story waiting for you, and it might just change the way you see the world. Thank you so much for watching. See you soon.